Alrighty, good morning YouTube. I want to do a quick video today, something that's related to one of my last videos where I talked about how the internet is a thing, not a place, and what the implications of that are. And one of the things that kind of comes out of that definition and how you relate to the internet, especially in church work, is if the internet is a place, not a thing, it's going to inform how you treat it. And where I think this is illustrated best is when people talk about the internet as if it's a mission field, which I don't know if it's valid or not. I'm still on the fence about how to treat the social media platforms or the different, online communities, that kind of stuff. But I do think that these are vastly different things, and that comparing them isn't quite the same. You often get the argument presented that because Instagram has 500 million daily users, that you would never ignore a country that had 500 million people that needed Christ. And the logic, if the internet is a place, for that argument just lines straight up, makes total sense. Like, that's exactly how Christian missions are done. Why wouldn't we do that? But if the internet is a thing, then I think that what we're doing is we're putting emphasis and attention on the wrong thing when it comes to online missions, because there isn't a direct comparison between those two things. The internet as a thing, as a network of interconnected computers, is not the same as, let's say, the country of India, which has multiple people groups, multiple languages, different architecture, foods, climate, political climates to kind of navigate, all that kind of stuff. That was missions. That was for everything before the age of the internet. What Jesus said, go into the nations and make disciples on. What Jesus didn't say was go and use this object, and make disciples through it. He was very, I don't want to say agnostic, but like there was no pragmatism to his go. It was just go to the nations, and those were actual locations. He sent everyone out from from Jerusalem when the church started. It was an explosion. And what we see with the tech is not an explosion, or not a continuation of the explosion that got them to the point where church online always has a history in church that wasn't online. That kind of relationship in the metric there. So when we say that we're going to do a missions, or we're approaching these online spaces as if they're actual spaces, like as if they're a country that we could go to simply because there's a massive amount of people, what we're doing is we're not comparing like apples to even oranges. We're not comparing like India to Pakistan. What we're doing is we're comparing apples to orchards. We're comparing this thing that was made by culture, technology, to the culture itself, in any one given demographic. These are separate things, and I think how we relate to them matters because of just how we approach missions and where we're putting our energies and our time. Because spending time online to build relationships, I think, has value, but it's entirely separate as a practice than spending time in your community, which is part of the go to all nations that Christ sent us to in the Great Commission. Like, where you are, that's part of the all nations. The people who are in your community matter in a tangible way and in a biblical way to the mission of God, compared to like online, where it's like this is never mentioned. And yes, it's a means, and means can be kind of like amoral. They're tools. They can be used that way, but we're not treating them like tools. We're treating them like places when we talk about like online church and online missions, and they're not places. And that fuzziness, that the internet is a thing, not a place, fuzziness is where I think we lose our momentum, but it feels like we're not losing it because we're getting engagement. So just to highlight it, and kind of one final thing, there's a very, very different meaning behind a piece of content getting 1 million likes and a country getting 1 million Christians. Those are very different things, and to compare them straight across the board without any nuance, without explanation, and without without any kind of detail past just the qualifier of that there are people online. It's like those aren't even, those aren't people the way that a person living in a house in a town is a person. Those are the, half hour of attention span along everything else that happens on that app with that person algorithmically. That's what that person exists at. And so this comparison, this talking about online platforms as if they are places, again, that's rooted in this idea that the internet is a place, not a thing. And I think that's wrong. I think that the internet is a thing. And when we start treating it like a thing, start treating it like a tool, it can be the force multiplier for the missions of God that it is. But when we treat it like a place, all we do is create places for our money and our resources and our time and our effort to kind of hit against, where it's not making a biblical difference like missions or like local discipleship or local outreach would. It's in a very real way the church acting like the internet as opposed to the church acting like the church. And all you need to do is take a step back. Sorry about that burp there. I want to kind of leave it with that. It's floating around my head. I'm working on trying to get these thoughts and these kind of mental frameworks a little more organized and hopefully into a book later on the next year, along with the rewrite of Online as It Is in Heaven. So you can expect that hopefully for Christmas, and we'll try and get it out ahead of time so that we can do a free book week through Amazon's Kindle Unlimited program, hopefully for Christmas. Don't know if that's going to happen, so here's hoping. But I just wanted to start your day off with this thought. Hope you like it, and we'll talk to you later.